Hi guys! In the last video, you learned an Android project is a group of related files such as Android manifest file, code files, layout file resources, etc. Now that you have a good understanding of the files forming an Android application, it's time to design your first Android app. So if your Android Studio is not open, open it. As you see, Android Studio skips the welcome message dialog and opens the last project unless you press cancel button. You can also close an existing project by using file close project. Wait until these processes complete. These processes are loading our project. Okay, and now it's time to teach you how to design and develop your first app. To develop an Android application, you usually have to do two main steps. The first step is to design the application UI. UI or user interface is the visual part of your app through which a user interacts with the app. The activity underline main file located under the layout folder is the file that you can design your app's UI. Okay, so designing the UI is the first step of developing Android applications. The second step is to write your app's logic in main activity file. In fact, your app's functionality is defined here. So these two files make up an activity. Let's start with designing the UI. Assume that we wanna put a button in the layout that when we click on it, a welcome message displays. But before that, we need to delete the element that's already here in the graphical layout editor. This area is the graphical layout editor. It lets us preview an activity UI without running the app. Okay, by default, there is an element here that is called a text view. As its name implies, its main purpose is to display a text. We don't need this element at this time, so let's select it by clicking on it and then press the delete key. Okay, now we need a button. But how we can add a button to the user interface? The answer is that on the left side of the layout editor is a palette tab. The palette contains various elements that are categorized into groups according to their usages. Each element is called a view. Some common views are text view, button, and image view. Okay guys, we need a button, so let me drag a button from the palette onto the layout editor. Center it vertically and horizontally. To position the button in the middle of the layout, use the dot gray lines. When you drop a view on the layout editor, you can edit its properties by using this tab, Attributes. Each view has a range of attributes. Each attribute defines how the view looks and behaves. In fact, we can configure our views by using this tab. For example, let's change the text attribute of this button. So make sure the button is selected. By selecting this button, we'll have an attribute named text in the attributes tab, which is initialized to button. Let's change it to click me. So I type in click me here in the text attribute of the button and press the enter key. By pressing the Enter key, the text change is applied. As you see, there are more attributes available for the button. For example, to change the text size of the button, we use text size attribute like this. Or we can type in a value like this. The other useful attribute is ID. The default value for the ID attribute is button. Change it to button welcome and press enter. Okay, having an ID allows us to access the button from the code from here. In fact, later we will need to access this button to display a welcome message when the user touches the button. So we need to define an ID for it. Please note that W is in uppercase while the other characters are in lowercase. Okay, let's suppose that we have designed the user interface. We will cover the most popular views and their most commonly used attributes later. For now, we need to write the button's functionality. In fact, we need to write a code that displays a welcome message when the user touches the button. So from the Project Explorer, open the main activity file if it's not open. This file is where we can add some Kotlin code to display the welcome message. So here, after the set content view, type in BU. As you notice, code completion list appears as you're typing. The code completion is a feature that suggests a list of options for completing the code that you're trying to write. Type T, select the button welcome by using the arrow keys and press the enter. By pressing the enter key, the word button welcome is automatically inserted. As you may have guessed, button welcome is the ID of this button. Code completion is very handy because you can take advantages of the code completion feature to save a lot of time. In fact, code completion is designed to save time while writing code. Also, it helps you not to make mistakes. For example, if you don't use this feature to type the code and type the code manually without using code completion, you may miss a character or you may use an uppercase letter instead of a lowercase letter. For example, like here, instead of an uppercase W, you may use a lowercase w. By doing this, you will see an error message like this, unresolved reference. Because Kotlin is a case-sensitive programming language. Anyway, type BUT. Note that if the code completion doesn't appear, press Ctrl space to open it manually. Use the up and down arrow keys to select the button welcome and press the enter key or double click on it. Type in dot. As you see, the code completion list appears again. In this list, look for set on with uppercase O, click listener. Select this one that comes with the open brace, 3 dots, and the close brace, and press the enter key. Press the enter key again. OK. Let me tell you what does this code do. This code means that listen to the click event of this button, button welcome. In other words, when the button is clicked or touched, execute the body or the code in this block. However, we haven't written any code yet, so let's type the code that displays a welcome message when the user touches the button welcome button. Type toast, T-O-A, select toast here, press enter key, so it imports android.widget.toast. Importing the required libraries is another advantage of code completion. Okay, type dot and select make text and press enter. Inside the parentheses, type this keyword, comma, double quotation, welcome to Android development, comma, toast dot length long or length short. Now after the parentheses, type the dot character and select show and press enter. This code means that by using the toast class, make a text with this data, and after making the text message, show it. This data are the text that should be displayed and its display time. So by clicking on this button at runtime, this text will be displayed. Your first Android app is ready to launch. An Android app that displays this button with this text. And when the user clicks on it, a welcome text is displayed for a few seconds. Now it's time to run the application. To run this Android app, we need an emulator or a real Android device. In the next videos, I'll teach you how to create an emulator, and also I'll teach you how to connect a real Android device to your Android Studio.